Hey guys, what's going on? Matt here, and welcome back to the Black Extreme Mod Tools tutorial series. So then, in this video, I'm going to be going over SSI lighting. Now, SSI lighting is basically sun lighting. Okay, so you have two types of lighting. You have your primary and your secondary. So your primary is, of course, your sun. So that's your global lighting, if you will, and your secondary is things like lamps, spotlights, and it's your smaller lights. Okay, so the ones which you typically just drag and drop when you're actually in Radiant. Okay, so then. What we need to do is actually set up a GDT now. So all of your sun, your sun settings come from a GDT. Now, the way I normally do it is by copying over from a pre-existing GDT and then just changing values. But because this entire series is aimed at people who do not have content set up already, what I'm going to do is I've made basically a template GDT for you guys to download. It's very blank. And it's pretty much very generic, but we'll be going over every aspect of it. So what you can do is you can download this. This is originally quite a dark map, but you can very easily change it to quite a bright daytime map without too much going on. So as I said, in the description you'll have a link, and just download this. Okay. Now once you got this, what we need to do is of course rename this. Now I've made a new map called test_day. Because test itself is a thunder and lightning map. It's a very dark map. So I've done test_day. Okay, so rename it to your map name. So test_day, or of course whatever it is in your case. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to go over to my Black Ops 3 root directory, and I'm going to go to source data, and I'm just going to dump it into there. Easy as that. Next, I'm going to open up my actual APE. So all you're going to do is you go to your launcher, click on this icon here, and this will open up APE. Okay, I'm just going to search for test_day. Excuse me. So once you search for that, you see we have our our GDT here. Of course, you'd put your map name in. So open up that. There you go. Now what I've done is everywhere your map name should go, so in this case it's test_day, I put map name. So all we're going to do to start off with, before I explain anything, I'm just going to rename everything that's got map name in to, well, test_day. I'm also just going to copy this so I don't have to type it out every single time. That's going to get really annoying. So let's rename everything first, and then we'll go into each of these assets. These are all assets, and we will change some of them within there in a moment. There's only a few things left to change, so just rename each one as I'm doing here. Of course, once you've done this once, you've done it, then all you'll really be changing is the actual settings themselves occasionally. So I'm just go into here. That won't pop up every single time. It's just because I need to restart launcher. So within this one, the one with like this weird square thing, this means it's a model. So I'm going to change the material down here. Next, I'm going to go to search material. You can see there's nothing here. Let me just change. I'm going to go to my, well, basically one of each of these four now. I'm going to just change the Skybox model here, like that. Okay. Awesome. So we can save that. Now then, let's kind of go over a little bit of basics over what some of this does. So your Skybox itself is basically your sky around your map. Okay, everything that's around your map, like pretty much everything in the sky. Not Vista. Vista is actual part of mapping, but when it comes to the sky, this is your model that will show. Okay. Now, of course, we don't want to be creating a new model for every single sky. It's a bit unnecessary. So what we do instead is we're using the same one here, but we're just going to change the material on it. Okay. So instead of using the default material, we've now made our own material over here. So what we can do is we can edit this material, okay, specific to our map. So this is literally the brightness and such of the actual sky. The positioning of it. Okay. We'll come back to this in a moment though. Okay, so that's basically all your Skybox stuff, and of course editing the material which goes along with it. These pretty much are all the settings for the actual sky. Okay, so usually when you start you'll have no power. When you turn power on, of course it will switch to this one, and these are also some other things which we'll cover in a second. So before we get too far into this, let's go and head over to Radiant. Okay, and we can actually set these up actually in our map. Okay, so I can show you guys in pretty much in real time what it's actually doing. So let me open this in Radiant. Now, when we do get to light states, you can of course add more of these as you wish. It's just most maps will only need that many. That's why I did that. So here's our map. Okay, test day. So what we need to do is go over to our entity list and go down to volume sun. Select this, and we get this window over in entity info. Now then, light states. So at the moment we've got light states 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're only going to be using light state 1 and 2 though. So typically light state 1 is when you first start your app. You know, that's going to be everything, well, basically what your sun and all your lights look like when you very first spawn in. Of course, once you turn the power on, typically, you know, a few lights may turn on, a few things might change. Maps usually don't get any brighter, but a few lights do turn on to make it feel brighter, but the actual sun itself will stay the same. This is light state 2 that then we'll switch to. Of course, if you have other things, for example, I did a tutorial on thunder and lightning. I was using light state 3 and 4 for the lightning effects. Okay, so but usually it'll be light state 1 and 2. Hence why I've only provided effectively 1 and 2. Okay, that's basically what that is. So let's kind of enter our values into here and kind of go on from there. So the way this works is we have 2 values here for each light state. Okay, so overrides, this is these parts here. This is what you actually will see in game. Okay, so when your player goes into the game, this is what your player themselves will see. Okay, based on that. The non-override, so these just normal parts, it's pretty much what gets baked. So let's say you have a really bright room, but your actual player, you want it to be a bit darker for them. This now is kind of, you know, where you can vary that. Okay. Most cases that I've ever used, I do tend to keep these both the exact same. So whatever I do to one, I'll do the exact same because I want the room to feel the exact same as the player can see. But there's the difference. Okay, so overrides is what you see, and non-overrides is what gets baked. Okay, and by baking I mean basically what gets sort of almost compiled, if you will. Okay, but that might be an easy way to understand it. Okay, so kind of what gets baked, and you know, based on surroundings in the map, you know, based on other elements in your map. That's kind of what the actual map itself looks like. Okay, so let's actually go into these and let's edit these. So as you saw earlier, we had 4 of these. Okay, so we have normal, you know, normal override, and then power, and of course override power. Okay, so what we're going to do is go put these into here. Now I'm going to click the browse button. I'm just going to do test day. Okay, so this first one's going to be test day. This other one is going to be the exact same, but now with override at the end of it. Okay, light state 2, because now this, as I said, this is now is where we have the power on. I'm going to do the power option, so test day, but now it's underscore power, and of course this one will be power, you know, with an override in it. Okay, so override underscore power. There we go. You can name these whatever you want. I've only named it this because this is what I had set up in my GDT. Okay, you can name these whatever you want though. I just tend to keep the same naming convention though. It makes it easier for me to remember. So in a second we'll actually go into the GDT files themselves, these actual assets, and we'll start editing these so you guys can see exactly what we're doing. But before I get to them, I need to just say that each time we make any changes, so any, you know, changes to any lighting, we are going to need to recompile. Okay, so if I just click escape, actually I won't click escape, I'll do something else first. Let me just quickly cover shadow split distance first, and then we can move on. So shadow split distance, this is effectively the quality of your shadows. So of course if you have a very large map and you have very high quality shadows, you really gotta, you know, really affect performance there. Of course, if you have a very small map, it's not going to affect it much. So typically, the larger the map you have, you know, the more you want to optimize it. Now, shadow split distance is, as I said, your, well, it's the quality shadows pretty much. And now you want to have this as low as you can. Now, I've set it to 2000 just as like a default. A lot of people though don't even go above 1000 for this. Okay, so really customize this to what you want. Okay, of course, you know, if you think things don't look very good, try and increase it. Try and lower it, see what you think looks best. It really is a bit of trial and error. It's very, very map specific, this though, so there's not really one value does everything. I typically use 2000. That is very high for a lot of people, but my maps never usually have any problem with that, so that's why I kind of use that, because you know I kind of get everything perfectly fine. Although you know I do every now and then change it if need be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this SSI1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it down here. Now the reason why I'm not going to explain this is because I have no idea what it does. Quite simply put, I'm not too sure if really anyone knows what this does. Every single thing I've ever watched or ever read, people usually just copy this first one and use it there. Even try it themselves. Did this? They just copied this down to here. Yeah, I don't have anything much to say about that. Just make it the same as that, and yeah, I don't have a clue what that does. Maybe it's like a backup or something, you know, in case it can't find one. I don't know. Just stick it as that and change it if you know any more. And of course, if you do know what this does, please let me know in the comments, because I've been doing this for years now and I've never once known how to do that. So then, let's move on. So what you're going to do, of course, is each time you make any changes, compile your lighting. So I'm going to click escape on the sun volume, and I'm just going to compile lighting really quickly. I'm hoping this doesn't lag out anything. No, perfectly fine. Lovely. So that's just edited this. And as you see, you know, it is quite a dark map. I've raised the lighting a lot just because, you know, it's easier to see in general. So now let's go into the SSI. So what everyone's been, you know, waiting for. Oh, before I forget, if you don't have this up here, perfectly fine. All you're going to do is you're going to go up here to view. You're going to go down to, I think it's the view toolbar. There we go, yeah. And you see exposure. Make sure you have exposure checked, and you'll have it in your camera view. Okay, so that's how you get that. Just in case you've never had it or whatnot. So now we've done that, let's go over to our APE and let's edit a few values now. So as I said, you know, most of these will be the exact same. I'm going to be editing the overrides, and then I'm just going to basically do the same thing to this. Now, because I'm not going to have anything changing between normal and if the power's on, all of these four, in my case, are pretty much going to be the exact same, okay? I want the map to look the same whether you have the power on or not. The only difference would be maybe a light may come on, but that light itself wouldn't be affecting the SSI, it would just be affecting the actual, you know, in-game or our secondary lights, okay? So in terms of primary lighting, nothing will change for what I want. Obviously, if you do want anything to change, make it different. In this case, all I'm doing, I'm going to be editing this one. I'm basically making every other one the exact same. Okay, customize these however you wish though. So let's start off with color. Okay, color is exactly how you'd expect. You can click the color and you can change it. I'm gonna go with this one just because I know this. Actually, that's a bit bright. I know. I'll keep it as that. Okay, that's one I had preset up. So you can copy my values there if you want that. You can see the color of the actual lighting has changed. Okay, so that's your color. Exactly what it, you know, suggests. Now then, let's say we want a really bright map. Okay, I'm going to design this now to be a relatively bright map. Okay, and then I'm going to change the skybox to be much brighter. So let me just position the camera like this. Okay, so pitch and yaw. These are basically the direction of your sun. Okay, so of course, if you want your sun to be much more, you know, much more vertical, maybe much more, you know, up in the air, or maybe, you know, it's more like a sunset. Or sunrise, you'll change these values depending on the positioning of your sun. So this really is a trial and error. Just change these values, update your lighting, and of course, you know, see where your shadows go. Okay, your shadows of course will indicate the direction of your sun. If you don't do that, what you can do is select your sun volume, and you can see we have an arrow here. This is also the direction of your sun. Okay, so you know, you might find that easier to use. Okay, for changing these values, so changing the direction of the arrow. So let's go back to this. Now then, lens flare pitch offset. Okay, now if you actually have your sun, and of course let's say you have a daytime map, when you look at the sun, typically you want a bit like a lens flare. This is set down here. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. And this is literally, you know, if you don't want it at its default location, you can change the positioning of this, just like we can with the sun. This is the lens flare. Okay, so you can alter these two values. Usually you'd have it at 0 because you'd want it to be where the sun starts. If your skybox though doesn't have the sun at like a 0 position, of course you'd change that. Stops is basically the brightness. Okay, so if I just look at it like this, let's say I go to 15, it's really bright. Let's say I go to a 5, it's really dark. I'm going to put it about 8, I can see it's about in the middle. I'm going to leave it as 10 though, just because that's pretty ideal for what I want. This is basically your sun brightness, okay? So change that. You know, you do tend to tweak this a lot as you're mapping. Different areas, you know, might obviously affect, you know, how bright you want your sun in the end. So this is probably the one thing you'll be changing most out of anything. At least it is what I do. Okay, so specular compensation. I think that's what it stands for anyway. But specular comp, at least, this is basically the shininess of your map. I usually leave it at a 0 just because I don't like things being super shiny. I feel that's a bit weird. Let's put it at 1.5 though. You can see things get a little bit shinier. Let's really bump this up and let's say a 4. You see things are getting really quite shiny now. I'm actually going to leave this as a 2 actually. I quite like that. Okay, I'll leave it as a 2. I usually I'm pretty much always as that as a 0 though, but maybe I should start to increase that myself. I always just think it looks a bit unnatural having things shiny, but that's because I do darker maps a lot, so that's probably why. Daytime maps obviously would be a lot more brighter, so yeah, you know, play about with that. So penumbra inches, this is basically your shadowed areas. So this is basically shadow quality. Okay, so of course, you know, look at a shadow. Let's go over here to behind this wall. You see the shadow over here. If I change it, so let's go for a 5. See, it changes. And let's say put that down to a 1. It changes. Now, usually you want a shadow itself tends to be quite blurred. So let's try a 4. That looks much more like a shadow would do. Okay. So you really do have to just experiment with that to get what you need. As I said, a lot of these values are purely based on individual situations. My actual thingy has paused there. No, okay, it froze for a minute then. I don't know why that happened. It doesn't normally do that. Okay, so let's go back to this. So things like sun cookies, I don't touch them because I don't understand them at all. I'm sure there's a video out there, or of course once I understand these, I make a video. I'm much more of a mapper than someone who does lighting. I just kind of know my way around it roughly. A lot of things most people would ever need lighting, should be covered here, I'd hope. But I don't really touch sun cookies. But I think it's to do with things like, let's say you have some clouds moving over your map. I think it's to do with much more dynamic events, which I've never really needed to use personally. Okay, so enable the sun volumetric cookie. That is literally if, let's say, you had a map which, I don't know, maybe you had a street light and you wanted it to look like there's a bit of fog coming off it. Typically we use volumetrics for things like that. This is pretty much everything coming from the sun though. So in the future I will make a video on volumetric lights, but this is basically the sun version of that. So you can say, yes, I want the sun to provide volumetrics or not. Yeah, simple as that. Lens flare, as I touched on earlier, is of course if you have like a daytime map, you might, when you look at the sun, you might want to have like a lens flare. Of course, you can select which one you want to use here. I'm not going to set one though because I don't need one. Okay, so that's pretty much that. And of course, you pretty much need to mess about with these values to get what you want. There is no straightforward way to, there is not one sort of one thing that does all maps. You want to just play about with these and see what your map does itself. Bounce count is of course when you actually compiling your lighting, how many bounces it goes through. I usually average about 4 or 5. That's usually what I tend to use. So now we've done that, let's go into here. Okay, and so we can see we've got the lighting compiled. We can see that your sky itself is way darker than we need it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this material. I'm going to go down. You can see I have sky stops. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to up this now to say 15. Save it. And see the sky now looks a lot brighter. So just as we did with the stops over here, you basically want it to match the material. So obviously if I have a very dark map, the sky will be much darker. Of course, if I wanted to use a different material, I can of course change the material here. As you're typing, it gives you some suggestions. So use whichever one obviously works best for you. In my case though, I want it to be quite a cloudy sky. but you know, I still want it to be daytime. So yeah, you know, this obviously wouldn't work in an actual map situation. It doesn't really match the lighting properly. You'd more of like just a normal daytime sky here. But just for the purpose of this tutorial, you know, I just wanted to show you that, you know, it's a very clear, you know, night and day sort of, you know, it's basically the best skybox I could use really to show, you know, the drastic change. So yeah, that's basically a bit of an overview on lighting. As I said though, you know, I am no expert on lighting whatsoever. You know, at least when it comes to SSIs. But for what most people would ever need, this covers it pretty well. Yeah, I should hope so at least. So, of course, you know, change yours to what you want. Now, typically what I do, everything I've just changed in this override, I would now do to everything else to keep it all the same. But yeah, you know, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll do my very best to help you guys there. But apart from that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.